Good morning. I'm Ana Oliveira. I want to thank Aaron for a smooth transition. I'm the president of the New York Moons Foundation, a very proud board member of Philanthropy New York, and I was so delighted to be part of the committee that planned today. So I want to thank my fellow committee members. I want to thank the staff of Philanthropy New York for putting together an incredible day for all of us. So we are going to go now to something really important that Philanthropy New York does, and that's the Phil Talks. You know, talking about the power of participation and talking about, pluralism and democracy, it's so important to have the voice of leadership in a very permeable manner surface. And what Phil Talks does is exactly that. It was created 5 years ago. So, we've been in that track of creating opportunities for us to hear from leaders that are doing incredible work. Today, I'm going to be introducing to you four incredible speakers. They're going to do three different talks, but they all talk about the power of participation. And I was very inspired by the panel that we just listened to about, I'm going to say, the issue of authenticity that permeated so much of the conversation, the authenticity of participation and the authenticity of engagement and voice. So I'm going to introduce each speaker as we go along, and you're going to have an opportunity to listen to them. And if at the end we have time, we will ask them all a joint question together. So I'm going to begin by introducing Afua Atta-Mensah, who is the Executive Director of Community Voices Heard, a member-led multiracial organization here in New York City and beyond. Please welcome Afua. We are very fond of you and of Community Voices Heard. It's an organization that builds collective power to secure economic, racial, and social justice for all. So it's a membership-driven participation in power. There are, in the programs you have, there are very good bios of our speakers. So I'm not going to be able to really cover all that. But I do want to say that in addition to Afua's leadership at Community Voices Heard, she is an attorney who has worked on behalf of communities for organizations such as the Urban Justice Center, the Center for Working Families, and the Legal Aid Society. Please welcome Afua.
When you hear the phrase welfare, what are some of the first thoughts that come into your mind? For most people, those words would be stereotypes. Lazy, liars, uneducated. Don't act like I'm the first person to say this, right? Now, you may not have thought that, but those stereotypes were definitely part of the national narrative in 1994 when my organization was founded. My name is Afua Atta-Mensah, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Voices Heard. Now, when we were founded, at that time, some of the most draconian aspects on the war on the poor were being enacted across this country. Right here in New York City, then Mayor Giuliani was actually considering legislation that would put the children of women on welfare in orphanages. Under the guise of putting people back to work, the Work Experience Program was created. Instead of allowing people on welfare to go to school so that they could get the basic skills and earn the degrees they needed to actually get high-wage jobs that would really lift people out of poverty, they were told to report to the Parks Department so they could pick up trash throughout the park, or else their benefits would be cut. In fact, several of our founding members were at the time enrolled in area universities and told they had to drop out of school and go to the Parks Department. You know, despite that vitriolic narrative of their day, our members, these so-called welfare moms, were crystal clear about the power of participation, right? They formed an organization after an inaugural meeting of 80 people that would allow them to build power. To this day, we use the model that they created on that fateful night: fighting for our communities, fighting for our families, and fighting for ourselves. So we've evolved from an organization that had one office in New York City that focused on welfare rights to a statewide organization with offices in New York City, Westchester, Dutchess, and Orange County. We work on a myriad of campaign issues. Some of our core issues are affordable housing, immigration reform, climate justice, jobs, youth, participatory democracy. I still remember the first time I came in contact with someone from CVH. At the time, I was a public defender. So after my mornings in courts, sometimes I was charged with going to these coalition meetings. And at these meetings would be heads of social service agencies, policy wonks, heads of city agencies. And so on this day, right, in the meeting, you know how it goes. You introduce yourself, your title, the organization you're with. And this one person introduced himself as an organizer for Community Voices Heard. The two women next to him identified themselves as members of Community Voices Heard. Now, when they walked in, I immediately recognized them because they're the only other people of color, and I was like, finally, right? And at that meeting, there was a consultant from a city agency, and he had a policy idea that would help eliminate poverty. And his idea was, what you have to do is get rid of public housing. You see, public housing is a scourge, and the only thing that happens there is poverty, and you got to just demolish it and sprinkle the people around. And I will never forget it. The CVH member, her name was Ann Bragg. She raised her hand. She looked at him and she said, who did you talk to when you did this? I said, what? I talked to the head of the housing authority and other housing authorities in major cities and crunched the data. And then she looked at him and said, well, who paid you for this? He said, I'm a city consultant. She looked down the table at me. She said, baby, you a lawyer. Can we sue the city for wasting my tax dollars on this nonsense? And went down the line and just gave a point-by-point rebuttal of how farcical what he said was. And then said, you know, we have our own policy prescription, and laid it down. So after that, the meeting was pretty much over, right? I made a beeline for Ann Bragg. I was like, yo, what is CVH? She said, we're not a service organization. We're member-led, we're base building, and we're building power so we can win our campaigns. At that moment, I was like, yes, yes, yes. How can I be down? Is there like an email listserv that I can get on? I was immediately recruited, right? And it was that moment of seeing women of color coming into a space, changing the dynamic. They were so clear on their brilliance and power, even if the world wasn't ready for it. See, and right now as a nation, we're grappling with what happens when folks don't feel powerful, right? And with all we have going on right now and the amount of what we have to face, we have to do more than just say resist. You see, at CVH, we are building something. We're building a revival. We are unabashed about having a multiracial membership base. We place a premium on a true black and brown coalition. Okay? Now, how are we building this revival? At Community Voices Heard, we subscribe to a relational organizing method. Right? And in that method, it requires you to sit down and talk to someone and share your story, and then invite that person to share their story with you, right, so you can listen. Now, I want to say something to you. At a time when we sit across from breakfast tables and text the person across from us to pass the Cheerios, talking to somebody is damn near a revolutionary act, okay? So we take those conversations so we can find these common threads, and those common threads allow us to build upon showing that we have some common interests, and that maybe some of our fights are inextricably linked. This conversation, this one-on-one, is the elemental step that allows us to build a base, to build a movement, to build our revival. Now, this work ain't sexy. It is essential. It is like the lifeblood of how we make our revival. I want you to be clear. This is how we get a mass of people to become woke. Base building is a contact sport, right? Just getting that initial engagement with someone is hard work. We have to knock 50 doors just to get 20 people who will talk to you. Out of that 20, maybe 12 will talk to you and want to do something more than just identify their problem and move to action. Change movements are built by a small cadre of people. We find those people. Those are our CVH members. We provide them training and support so that they can find others of their ilk. We then have them go out and talk to other people and bring them back to CVH to teach power analysis and strategy. You see, we knock on these doors because we know behind those doors may be the next Fannie Lou Hamer. We knock on doors because behind those doors are people like Cynthia Gilkerson. Cynthia is a CVH member from our Orange County chapter. She's a mother of 3, and she became a member after doing a one-on-one with the organizer. And during that session, she talked about her concerns regarding a mental health clinic that was scheduled to close in Orange County. She was scared, right? She didn't know what to do. As many of you know, there's a stigma around mental health issues in this country. The organizer challenged her to say, you have to go out there and share your story so that she could learn that she wasn't alone in this, rather that this was a shared problem. And she did. And lo and behold, many people in her neighborhood shared that same concern. So we had to move then from building that base to moving the base to action. Cynthia started as a woman who was scared to even name that she had mental health issues, to building a base that was demanding meetings with members of the New York State congressional delegation, to demand that they put money to keep mental health services open. Thereafter, that base of people who were in solidarity with the collective idea about keeping that clinic open had a accountability session with the Orange County Health Commissioner. And as Cynthia notes, we were able to keep that clinic open. And if they come back, CVH will be ready. On the other side of those doors are people like Wendy Ceballos. Wendy is a member of Community Voices Heard. She's part of our Westchester chapter. We got involved with Wendy after she attended an anti-poverty assembly we were having in Port Chester. She became a member after having a one-on-one with the organizer. And during that session, she talked about how hard it was for her as a single mother. She worked two jobs to put food on the table. And because she worked so much, she really needed affordable after-school care. That organizer pushed Wendy and said, listen, you should go out, talk to people, share your story, determine whether or not other people need affordable childcare. As the mom of a 4.5-year-old, any parents, put your hands up. Don't be scared, okay? Getting affordable childcare is a problem that many people share. So Wendy was able to find this base, but again, we had to move them just from identifying a problem to action, right? And action can be terrifying, particularly for the base that Wendy was initially building, undocumented women. Part of the analysis that she came to learn at CVH that we needed to build a larger network, a network of people that were more invested in childcare for their children than in any racial or other issues that may divide us. You see, we won that campaign. And I'm proud to say we win campaigns at CVH. We win campaigns not just because our ideas are better. They are. We win campaigns because we have invested in people to move them, right, from a token participation to a powerful participation, where they are transformed in that space. And then, just like happened to me in that first meeting with someone for CVH, I was transformed, I was recruited. We believe in this model and believe that it will help us set this nation on a proper trajectory. Every day of the week at CVH, we bet on people. And we haven't lost yet. Thank you.